Good evening and welcome to the October 28th, 2024 Zoning Hearing Master Meeting. I'm Pamela Jo Hatley and I'll be serving as your Zoning Hearing Master today. Before we get started with the meeting, if you will please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, again, I'm Pamela Jo Hatley, and I'll be serving as your Zoning Hearing Master this evening. And I would like to, at this time, introduce Michelle Heinrich, who will, with Hillsborough County Development Services, who will introduce any agenda changes and introduce staff as well.
Good evening, Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. With us tonight at the dais, we have with the County Attorney's Office, Cameron Clark, and with the Planning Commission, Alexis Myers. We do not have any withdrawals or continuances or staff changes to go over tonight, but before I begin, I would just like to remind the audience that the parking garage across the street facing Pierce Street will be closing at 6:45, so if anyone is parked there and needs to move their cars or step out for a moment just to make sure you're not locked in at 6:45. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, I'll read the meeting procedures. First of all, the agenda consists of items that require a public hearing by a hearing master before going to the Board of County Commissioners for a final decision. I will conduct a hearing on each item today and will submit a written recommendation. My written recommendation will be filed with the clerk of the board within 15 working days after the conclusion of today's public hearing. The Board of County Commissioners will consider the record of today's public hearing and my recommendation and will make the final decision on the application at a publicly noticed meeting at a date and time set by the Board of County Commissioners. The hearings today will be informal. I will ask questions related to the scope of direct testimony and may call and question witnesses as I deem appropriate. I will decide all questions of procedure. I will take evidence, but will exclude evidence that is irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious. Evidence may be presented in written form, and all testimony shall be under oath. Hearsay evidence may be used to supplement or explain other evidence, but shall not be sufficient alone to support a finding of fact unless it would be admissible over objections in a civil court action. The order of presentation today shall be as follows. First of all, county staff will introduce each item. The applicant and the applicant's witnesses will have 15 minutes to present the proposal. County Development Services will have 5 minutes to present its findings and recommendations. Planning Commission will have 5 minutes to present its findings of compliance or non-compliance with the comprehensive plan. Proponents will have 15 minutes to present arguments in support of the proposal. Opponents will have 15 minutes to present any arguments against the proposal. County staff will then have 5 minutes to present any amended recommendations, and the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal and summation. The 15 minutes allotted to proponents and opponents is the total time among all the speakers. So if there are a number of individuals who wish to speak on an item, the 15 minutes will be distributed among those speakers. Also, if there are a number of speakers interested in speaking on an issue, you may designate a single spokesperson to represent your views. When you come to the microphone to speak, please first state your name and address for the record. The meeting is being recorded, so please speak into the microphone so your testimony can be recorded. When you're finished speaking, please see the clerk to my left here to sign in for the record. Now we'll hear from the County Attorney's Office on legal requirements for requesting oral argument at the public meeting where the Board of County Commissioners will make a final decision.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer. My name is Cameron Clark. I'm an Assistant County Attorney. Tonight's public hearing is the first step of a two-step rezoning process. This hearing is a time for rezoning applicants and interested parties to present evidence and testimony. Any evidence presented tonight will become the complete factual record of each application, and no additional evidence can be introduced after the closing of each application. The second step of the rezoning process is a public meeting before the Board of County Commissioners, where the board will take a decision on each application heard tonight. Tonight's applications are scheduled to be heard by the board at its December 10th land use meeting. When considering applications, the board will only review the record created at tonight's hearing and the recommendation made by the hearing master for each application. The hearing master will file a recommendation for each application heard tonight on November 19th. The Board of County Commissioners has established a policy that directs which rezoning and major modification applications are to be placed on the consent agenda of the board's land use meeting. Applications that propose to add density outside the urban service area and applications that are on roadways with a failing level of service are not qualified for placement on the consent agenda. Applications that do not have consistent recommendations of approval or denial are also not qualified to be placed on the consent agenda. And finally, applications that have had evidence or testimony provided to the record by non-applicant parties of record, either prior to or at tonight's public hearing, are not qualified for placement on the consent agenda. The board will allow testimony by any party of record at its public meeting to consider the hearing master's recommendation for any item heard on the regular agenda. Testimony by a party of record shall be limited to the record of the proceedings before the hearing master, unless additional evidence has been found admissible in accordance with Section 10.03.04D of the Land Development Code. A party of record is someone who fits into at least one of the following four categories. First, someone who is present tonight and presents testimony or documentary evidence. Second, someone who has been certified by the U.S. Postal Service as having been mailed notice of tonight's hearing. Third, someone who submitted documentary evidence to the master file at least 2 business days prior to tonight's hearing. Or fourth, someone who submitted documentary evidence by proxy at tonight's hearing. The content of oral argument before the board shall be limited to the content of the testimony and other evidence submitted verbally or in writing to the hearing master tonight. It's the role of the county attorney's office to ensure that only individuals who meet these requirements are allowed to speak before the board, and to ensure that no new evidence or testimony is introduced or allowed at the board's public meeting. For these reasons, please make sure that all information you wish the board to consider at its public meeting is entered into the record tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clark. All right, again, all testimony taken tonight must be under oath. So if you plan to speak tonight, please stand as you're able and raise your hand, and I'll swear you in. If there's anyone online who plans to speak tonight, please also raise your hand to be sworn in. All right, do you swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. All right. All right, Ms. Heinrich, we're ready to hear the first case.
Our first item is item C1, Standard Rezoning 24-1023. The applicant is requesting to rezone property from CN and RDC6 to CI restricted. I should note that this is a companion item to a comprehensive plan amendment, and that is scheduled to be heard along with this rezoning at the December 12th BOCC CPA hearing at 6 p.m. Michelle Montalbano with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
All right, thank you. Applicant?
Madam Hearing Officer and staff, my name is Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451, St. Petersburg. This is RZ Standard 24-1023. This is rezoning from CN and RDC6 to CIR. The use is specific to a contractor's office with open storage, with residential appearance and additional buffer and screening. Zoning staff supports, transportation is no objection. We were sent out 39 homeowner notices and 5 HOA public notices. In regard to the future land use capacity, there was also a notice made and meeting with residents, which 93 nearby residents were noticed. And as I checked the record in the last few days, there's been no opposition that I saw online. And as mentioned, this is a companion with CPA 24-22, which is a future land use category from R6 to SMU 6. We are located in the Sefner-Mango area, and looking closer, we're on Martin Luther King, as noted here. Site is noted on the left. Abutting next door is storage and mini storage warehouse, which is the same similar use. There's an auto service use next door as well, and a Dollar General, which is next door. These are just some photos of the of those uses next door and of the self-storage next door. So looking at zoning, the site next door is CG, and on the other side, the east side or west side, is a plant nursery, which is a non-conforming use. When you look at the corridor is very intensive, a lot of CGs, mostly CGs, some CNs, which is recognized along the major corridors that the project is on. Zoning staff report notes that the surrounding area is occupied by light industrial uses. The property fronts on Martin Luther King Boulevard in a commercial corridor with light commercial uses, zone CG and CN. To the rear is what we are calling a buffer. It doesn't appear that there would be access. It's currently vacant. We're calling it a buffer because it doesn't look like there could be really any appreciable development on that parcel.
That's one parcel?
Yes.
Mr. Pressman, is it privately owned? Do you know?
It is privately owned, and this is from the property appraiser map, which shows the one parcel, yes.
Is it zoned, I'm sorry, is it owned, to your knowledge, is it owned by any of the adjacent property owners, or?
Not to my understanding.
Okay, so an individual or
Yes.
a private person?
It's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
MLK is a major arterial, carries 20,400 vehicles per day in 2020. It is also a principal state arterial roadway. Looking at the comp plan, the transportation element, policy 2.1.6 offer incentives for higher land use densities and intensities along transit emphasis local service corridors, which is pointing to the fact or to the position that higher land use densities are appropriate along these type of corridors. The zoning staff reports a reduction of 2,498 trips on a 2-hour, two-way volume in regard to what currently could be permissible on the property, and indicated as well under the Planning Commission requirement, we did meet with neighbors. 2 participants showed up who had no opposition, and that was at a 500-foot radius. We have added a number of restrictions, which, as the Planning Commission considers, they don't consider review of these restrictions. These restrictions are taken directly from the staff report, which is the use would be limited to a contractor office with open storage, faux residential shingle roof line, faux residential windows, shutters, awnings. The finish on the rear and the 3 sides will be a combination of different types of finishes. The project will be enclosed by opaque vinyl fence and buffering and screening provided as per the Land Development Code. However, we are adding a 30-foot buffer adjacent to residential zonings and/or uses provided. The existing forestation, which is pretty good, we're proposing stay in place where it does exceed code. Elsewhere be screened type B as required by code. Just some of the elements that we've included in the file. And this would be the 30-foot buffer, shown not to scale, against the residential and to the rear. Planning Commission, they evaluated this as our Res 6, not the proposed and file processing companion SMU 6, which is a companion now. But the Planning Commission does note light industrial uses and heavy commercial uses are to the immediate east. Agricultural light commercial uses and single family are located to the west. Under the Sefner-Mango Community Plan, commercial development should be directed to US 92 and Martin Luther King Boulevard corridors. Recognize the commercial character of MLK within the urban service area, and support infill development and redevelopment within the urban service area while providing compatibility with existing uses. So with regard to what we proposed and restrictions, and considering reaching out to the public and what we proposed in buffering and in residential appearance. We believe it's a good request and hope to have your support. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just a little something. You mentioned that the comprehensive plan amendment is companion now. What did you mean by that?
Well, we've gone through a little bit of a transition over the last few months. The direction and edict in the past was that we had to bring forward to the Board of County Commissioners at one specific briefing meeting requesting a companion. At the last briefing, the commissioners directed the Planning Commission that applicants can just make that request at any time and does not require the specific Board of County Commissioner direction or resolution to have a companion comp plan.
Okay. All right. So it's companion now because that has been requested, or?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And be sure and sign in.
Good evening, Michelle Multilingual Development Services. The request is to rezone property currently zoned as RDC 6 and CN to entirely CIR. The applicant is proposing to restrict the use to contractors' offices with open storage. The request is running concurrently with Comprehensive Plan Amendment CPA 2422. The request is to change the future land use from residential 6 to suburban mixed use 6. The property is located in Seffner, west of Interstate 75. The subject site borders a minor vehicle repair shop and a minor warehouse facility zoned CG to the east and a plant nursery zoned CN to the west. To the west is a single-family residence, which is based on aerial photos, seems to be associated with the plant nursery as well. To the north is a vacant strip of land zoned RDC 6. The applicant is proposing restrictions for additional buffering and screening that is required in the CI district. For the primary use, this includes a 30-foot buffer over the required 20-foot buffer where the site neighbors residentially zoned properties and a 6-foot vinyl fence enclosing the site with type B plantings every 10 feet rather than every 20 feet. This will also exceed the additional screening requirements for accessory open storage when in view of a street or in view of a residentially zoned district. The proposed restrictions also include architectural standards requiring their office development to be residential in appearance. Due to these considerations and the subject to the proposed restrictions, we find the rezoning request approvable. If you have any questions, let me know.
Just a quick one. Looking at the zoning map that's attached to the staff report, that little area, that parcel, long, narrow parcel north of the subject property, is the zoning on that parcel RDC 6?
Correct.
Okay. So conceivably, that parcel could be developed.
Conceivably, yeah, but there'll be issues with access and fitting lots in there.
Okay. And so then also looking at the zoning map, so I understand the current zoning. It's CN on the southern portion, and I see the CN and RDC 6 up on the northeast, but what is it in the middle? Is that CN as well?
Yeah, no, the bulk of it is RDC 6.
Oh, I see. Okay. It was just not clear from the lines on the illustration, but I see it now. Thank you. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Planning Commission.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Master. Alexis Myers, Planning Commission staff. This was reviewed under the current adopted future land use category of residential 6. It is in the urban service area and within the limits of the Seffner Mango Community Plan. Commercial intensive zoning districts, uses like open storage may not be considered in residential future land use categories, as this category only allows for neighborhood serving commercial uses. Per the definition section of the comprehensive plan, neighborhood serving commercial uses include those uses permitted by the commercial neighborhood and commercial general zoning districts, not the uses permitted by a commercial intensive zoning. The proposed rezoning to allow contractor's office with open storage does not align with the character of the surrounding area and present compatibility concerns given the nature of the area, which is inconsistent with Objective 16 and its accompanying policies related to neighborhood protection. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the proposed conditions by the Development Services Department.
Okay, and then since this is traveling with the comprehensive plan amendment request now, there's no opinion as to consistency with the comprehensive plan if the plan amendment is approved?
That's a good question. I believe it would be changed, but I would have to just speak with the division director just to make sure.
Okay. So that wasn't looked at then in this evaluation at all?
Not in this one. We just based it on the current adopted future land use element. I'm sorry, category.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. All right, we'll go to the public. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, I do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application?
I'm Grace McComas. I live at 805 Old Darby Street in Seffner. I have a question before we start. The applicant just said that it's SMU 6, and the Development Service said that they're asking for CI, commercial intensive with restrictions. So which one is it? Because I know it's changed 4 times since the CPA started. So where are we?
Okay, Ms. Heinrich, would you address that,
Sure.
please?
We have both the rezoning, which is seeking to change the zoning of the property to CIR restricted. And then also the applicant is requesting to change the future land use category of the property. And-
Correct, but he said he wanted SMU 6, which was the original amendment change, but it's been changed like 4 times over this last few months.
The one that's before us
So
today?
it's commercial intensive with restriction is what he really wants.
That's for the zoning.
For the-
And then for the future land use, which is kind of the broader category over the area, he's also seeking to change that as well. And those will be heard together at the same hearing on December 12th before the Board of County Commissioners. They'll hear both items together.
Okay, so this, the CPA amendment change is going to be for CI.
That is
Restricted.
going to be from Res 6, residential 6 units per acre, to SMU 6, 6 units per acre. And they'll make a decision on that. And then that decision will likely tell us if the rezoning can go forward or not. If they approve that, then they, or actually they take the vote concurrently. They will hear both items to then seek to change the future land use from the RSC 6 to SMU 6, and then the zoning, what implements the future land use. The
We'll
more
change it
detailed-
then to commercial intensive?
Correct.
Man, that sounds very confusing to this old lady, I'll tell you that. Okay, well, obviously, I'm here in opposition to this request. I'm here to support the Seffner Mango Community Plan and our area. The future land use element directs staff to proactively direct new growth to the USA, and the BOC members frequently state future residential increase will occur in the urban service area and is essential for the predicted increase in people moving here. This land is in the FLUE for that residential purpose. Not every one of the newcomers will have the income that's going to be allow them to buy a $300,000, $400,000, $800,000 home. More affordable, small housing and rental properties, not large, overpowering apartment complexes that would preserve the transitional and suburban style of the urban service area must be available. The current FLUE provides for that in this area. It's all been planned for a long time. Why would this zoning or the third or fourth or CPA amendment change be more appropriate than the future land use that's in place? The property site is surrounded by commercial. There is no CI uses in the area. Commercial neighborhood and suburban commercial properties should be a benefit to the surrounding residents. A contractor's office with or without open storage is not a business that supports that concept. Few areas in Seffner have had an FLUE that protected the land for a specific use. We need to honor this one. While Seffner Mango supports infill, not every piece of land has to be commercial. Not every project has to be granted a higher density or given allowances, not even in the future land use plan. This application is inconsistent to the FLUE Objective 16, inconsistent with the Sefner Mango Community Plan, in which Goal 2 discourages commercial encroachment into the residential areas. Goal 3 supports light industrial uses west of 579, which is Mango Road, the road that goes up to I-4. It supports traditional office uses, childcare, and places of worship east of of State Road 579. This application is incompatible with the surrounding area, not a transition to the rural area, and not the intent of the Sefner Mango Community Plan. Once approved, many types of businesses could be located there. He's saying, Mr. Pressman says SMU 6, but he's also asking for commercial intensive restricting, that those zonings would be inappropriate, inconsistent, incompatible, and not transitional. And there is extremely little or no control after the land receives its zoning. It could be sold or be used for an even more destructive plan. FDOT has made it clear they would not have locational criteria for a driveway on State Road 574 and would have to have internal cross access to the parcels to the east and the west. I doubt that whatever CPA he's got going, the requirement would be different for this. For the record and for BOCC rules, I repeat all the staff's information if I have to in my statement for the BOCC. But you just heard it, well said by them, and I only have a few minutes. So I will add that all the facts presented by the Planning Commission staff are part of my opposition to the rezoning or CPA amendment change. Please recommend for denial to the BOCC on this request. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nokomis. Be sure and sign in, please. All right, is there anyone else here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this proposal? All right, I do not hear anyone. Development services, and I had a question. What does the Land Development Code allow for a contractor's office with open storage? What exactly is that?
A lot of times those are the types of individuals you see perhaps doing cabinetry at a home or granite services or something to which they are usually providing some type of service, and it comes along with some large pieces of building materials that are housed outside of the structure rather than inside the structure. And that's the only use that would be, if approved, allowed on this property.
Okay, so this property then with a standard zoning but restricted would allow, because of the restriction, would allow only that use.
Correct.
And the open storage component of that would involve, as you just described, those items, but not items like automobiles if they're doing automobile work or something like that, right?
Correct. The storage would have to be related to the use that's occurring, what that contractor does.
Okay, thank you. Did Development Services have anything further?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pressman? In your final comments, could you please address, in your opinion, the consistency of the proposed rezoning, the consistency of that use with the comprehensive plan if the CPA 24-22 is approved? That wasn't evaluated apparently by Planning Commission. So could you address that, please?
Yes. Overall, of course, the category SMU 6 recognizes this kind of use and these type of wider range uses. But it recognizes that this site is in the urban service area, as was stated incorrectly. It is in the urban service area. And part of the comprehensive plan, I think an important part, has to do with the several policies from the communities, from the community overlay that I indicated to you, that there are 2 roadways, and only 2 roadways, that are indicated for intensive business uses. And this site is located at MLK. And there are several policies that all say this is where these uses belong in the Sefner-Mango area. That's a very important goal and directives, and why we felt comfortable moving forward and asking for the SMU 6. The SMU 6 categories in this category would also include commercial, but we've excluded that under zoning. We've excluded those to have one particular use and recognize the residential areas in terms of compatibility under the comprehensive plan and the many policies by providing additional buffering and also providing the remaining of heavy forestation, which would be many, many times thicker, more dense, and higher for a buffer.
Okay, and I did want to ask you also to address the compatibility with the residential uses in the area. I know you've touched on that a bit, but it'd be helpful if you could discuss that a little more. And also, I think I did see in your presentation the buffers. Is that standard buffers under the code, or are you putting any restrictions on the zoning for the buffers?
What we're proposing for the buffers is where forestation, and actually, may I pull this back? If I could, if we could pull the PowerPoint back up, please. Thank you.
Do you want it from the beginning?
Thank you.
Or where? You can
Okay, thank you. Okay, so as presented on this slide, to the rear, there is residential use beyond the vacant parcel. So we're proposing in that 30 feet, which again is noted as not the scale, that the forestation would remain. That provides a buffer many, many, many times beyond what code would require. Again, repeating both in height, density, and height and density, height and density. Now, on the east side is the same. There's a heavy forestation, and typically that's what we try and do, is leave that rather than providing a much lesser buffer as called for by code. Clearly, the activity in terms of access is all on MLK. There's clearly no access other than MLK. And looking at the use to the east is a warehouse storage, auto repair, and a Dollar General. So we felt being compatible on the east, on the major arterial, which is a state arterial recognized roadway carrying a large amount of vehicles. I believe the number is 20,400 vehicles per day. That all leads to a site that is, oh, you're going to pull it up for me, and I'll go back to one more slide too, if I may, thank you. As well, as I've indicated, I won't go into deep depth, but the corridor itself is recognized as very intensive, which again falls into the goals and directive I presented on where these uses are directed to be by the comp plan. And finally, we've done 4 notices to a large number of residents, and we've had no residents in the immediate area come forward. The young lady who spoke is not a resident in the immediate area, as I understand.
Okay. And I do see the proposed conditions in the staff report, so that addresses my question there too.
Yes.
So, okay.
Thank you.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. So this will close the hearing on rezoning standard 24-1023.
Our next application is item C2, standard rezoning 24-1082. The applicant is requesting to rezone property from PD 000242 to RSC 9R restricted. Michelle Montalbano with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening. Eileen Rosario, 5827 East Columbus Drive, Tampa, Florida. Good evening, Madam Hearing Master. I am here representing Mr. Francisco Henriquez for 7201 North Manhattan Avenue. He would like to rezone this property, change the rezoning from a PD to an RSC9 to eventually be able to get a certified site plan to split the lot into 3 residential single-family homes. We have spoken with Development Services, and we have had our meeting with them. And to avoid from having any interaction with Manhattan, they have requested for us to do the driveway will be coming in off of Hamilton Avenue. We did send out 271 public notices. The majority of the properties in the area are all zoned RSC9. And I will show you a site plan, kind of showing where the driveway is going to be, so as per the request from the Development Services. I'll put these things on.
And if you want to talk from there, just bring the microphone over to you. There you go.
Thank you. Guess we can zoom this in. Or I should zoom it out. This is, oh, Dios mío. Okay, this is it's called age. This is Manhattan, and this is Hamilton. The driveway will start here,
I see.
and it'll be one long driveway for each individual home, with the backyard being back here, which will not interact at all with Manhattan.
Okay.
And the lots each will be, 2 of the lots will be 50 by 122, and the corner lot will be 55 by 122.
The corner lot, I'm sorry, on the far north or the south?
South.
South, okay. Thank you. I see. Okay.
And I want to thank you for hearing our requests, and if you have any questions, I'll be here.
No, I don't think I have any more questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be sure and sign in with the clerk.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, this is Michelle Montalbano, Development Services. The applicant is requesting to rezone property from PD 000242 to RSC9 with restrictions to facilitate single-family residential development. The PD solely permits a neighborhood grocery store and an indoor takeout cafe on the site. However, the property remained vacant since this rezoning and did not develop to its PD entitlements. The property is located in the Egypt Lake area, about a mile west of North Mabry Highway. The proposed RSC9 OR zoning district is consistent with the existing development pattern in the area, as to direct east and greater south of the property are over 650 acres of single-family homes zoned RSC9. Abutting the property to the north is a church zoned RSC9. To the direct south across Hamilton Avenue is a neighborhood supermarket zoned CN. Across North Manhattan Avenue are multi-family dwellings zoned RMC 12. The applicant is proposing to prohibit access on North Manhattan Avenue due to access spacing concerns raised by transportation staff. I believe transportation staff is on the line if you have any questions about that. Due to the above considerations, staff finds the proposed rezoning approvable. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't actually have any questions for transportation staff, but if they needed to put something on the record and they're on, we'll hear from transportation. I think it's...
Good evening, Madam Zoning Hearing Master.
Yes.
I think our comments in the report pretty much explain that the purpose for limiting access on Hamilton Road is because of Manhattan being a collector as well as within a school zone. And so the driveways on Manhattan, if they were to be proposed, would not meet the minimum spacing requirements and create additional conflict points in an area that we'd want to maintain safety.
Okay, thank you very much. I understand.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Planning Commission?
Yes. The subject site is located in the residential 9 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area and is not within the limits of any community plan. The proposal meets the intent of future land use element objective 1 and objective 16 in both of their respective policies, as the surrounding land use pattern is mostly single family and multifamily, and the proposed rezoning will complement the area. Residential 9 surrounds the subject site to the north, south, and east, and therefore the proposed rezoning meets the intent of objective 7 and objective 8. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the proposed conditions by the Development Services Department.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, I do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, I do not hear anyone. County Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right. And applicant, did you wish to add anything further? That's a no. Okay, thank you. This will close the hearing on rezoning standard 24-1082.
Our next application is item D1, Major Mod 24-0397. The applicant is requesting a modification to PD 96-0340. Chris Graylenor with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Hi.
Good evening. Truett Gardner here with Addie Clark, Gardner Brewer Hudson, 400 North Ashley Drive. And our client is Wagner Property Group. Addie has a PowerPoint she's going to run you through, but I thought just as a preliminary comment, broadly what we're doing is taking an existing PD. One of the parcels is being currently developed as a Wawa. The other parcel has about close to 84,000 square feet of commercial uses. We're providing a different option for that, which is multifamily housing, which one, from a transportation standpoint, we feel like is much better, much less impactful. Secondly, serves as a great transition to the residential neighborhood to the east. And then third, provides critical need facing the county, which is additional housing. So that's the broad overview with that. Addie's going to dig into the details. We've got our team, civil engineer, developer, and environmental. We've been working closely with staff and also with EPC. And so this has been a labor, and happy to be in front of you tonight and happy to answer any questions you may have. And with that, I'll turn it over to Addie Clark.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Addie Clark, 400 North Ashley Drive. I can share a PowerPoint, thank you. So getting started, we're looking at this site here shaded down in yellow, and it's 2 folios, and it has been zoned planned development since 1996, and it does have an underlying future land use of OC20, and as Truett mentioned, it's been approved for commercial general uses with CG dimensional standards with multiple access points. And this image, I think, does a really good job at showing. You can see in the southwest corner, a gas station with convenience store is currently under construction and was approved by right under the 1996 PD zoning. And again, looking into that 96 plan, you can see what's previously approved here, access and multiple off-site multiple off-site roadway improvements were required as part of the gas station construction project, which again was approved under the 96 PD. And for example, the right-of-way preservation along Memorial Highway, internal and external sidewalk connections, as well as turn lane improvements were all previously approved as part of that gas station plan and are not the result of the modification requested before you tonight. And these multiple improvements along Double Branch Road, Memorial Highway, and Hillsborough Avenue, which are currently under construction right now, are really all safety requirements that were required by the county as part of that Wawa project, which had approved construction permits earlier this year. So the proposed modification before you tonight is really just adding in this option 2, as Truett mentioned, to introduce multifamily as a potential use. So option 1 will remain as the PD that is approved today from 96, and then option 2 will capture that gas station that's currently being constructed as the use for parcel 1, and then we'll allow 220 multifamily dwelling units as parcel 2, which is shown with that blue bubble here. So really the only change is that addition of multifamily units in parcel 2, since parcel 1 in green is already approved and being constructed under the 96 PD today. And so here we shaded out parcel 1 since the gas station is under construction. And again, parcel 2 being proposed for 220 multifamily dwelling units ranging from 1 to 3 bedrooms. And given the site's location along collector and arterial roadways, we believe that use is appropriate here. But also we are adjacent to Double Branch Creek to the east and to the north. We believe that the development's design is sensitive to the surroundings in terms of setback and height. And again, the maximum height of 68 feet above the finished floor elevation. This is a slight increase from what is in the staff report today, which was 60 feet. And that is due to the potential for a peaked roof. We think that would be a nice architectural feature, and we want to have that option if possible. Also in coordination with EPC in trying to be sensitive with the surroundings. And then on that note, we are providing a retaining wall that will provide protection to the adjacent wetland and ensure that no untreated flow will go into that wetland area. And again, this market needs, we believe that the intent of the request is to allow for residential in a growing area while also allowing for the flexibility should market trends change. And we recognize the importance of both residential use and commercial use along these collector and arterial roadways in the urban service area. And then also while balancing the need for infrastructure improvements. And so which takes us now into focusing on option 2 compared to option 1, which exists today in terms of traffic. The trip generation analysis derives from the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual, which indicate an overall reduction in trips generated by the gas station and the multifamily development compared to the currently approved zoning plan. And these numbers would actually be a little bit lower, considering the internal capture that occurs when you have someone from the multifamily development kind of hop across and go to the gas station to get gas or coffee or sandwich or what have you. So the analysis conducted by the team's professional engineer concluded that option 2 would be fewer trips and that there would be no significant impact to the previously approved driveways and the external roadway network that was improved and approved as part of the gas station construction plan. And we're fortunate to have coordinated with staff on this and have received recommendations of approval with conditions from all departments. And our team is here if you have any questions at all.
All right, thank you. I have no questions for you.
Thank you.
All right.
Good evening. Chris Graulenard, planner with Development Services. Here to present major modification 24-397. The 11.44 acre site contains 2 parcels, zone PD 96-0340, and is located at the northeast corner of Hillsborough Avenue and Double Branch Road, and is located in the urban service area within the limits of the Town and Country and Northwest area community plans. 96 PD 96-0340 was approved in 1996 to allow up to 90,000 square feet of commercial general uses. The applicant requests a modification to add a second option to include residential multifamily as an allowable use for the development of up to 220 dwelling units for parcel 2. Parcel 1 is proposed to remain as a 6,119 square feet convenience store with gas station. The surrounding area is predominantly a mixture of light industrial and RV parks and institutional uses. There's a church immediately west of the site across Double Branch Road. Multiple RV parks to the north and east across Double Branch Creek. In the general proximity of the subject site is PD zoning to the northeast and west, and commercial general zoning to the south and west. The subject property is designated Office Commercial 20 on the future land use map. The Planning Commission finds the proposed use consistent with the comprehensive plan. The current PD 96-340 is already approved for commercial general uses, which provides residential support uses. The addition of a second option, which includes 220 multifamily dwelling units, would be consistent with the property with the currently approved PD. Therefore, the modification of PD 96-0340 to allow for a second option to develop the site with up to 220 multifamily dwelling units and 6,119 square foot convenience store with gas station would be consistent with the existing zoning pattern of the area. Based on the Office Commercial 20 future land use classification, the surrounding zoning and development pattern, and the proposed uses for the modified plan development district, staff finds the request approvable subject to proposed conditions. That concludes my staff report. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Don't have any questions for you. Thank you. All right, Planning Commission.
Yes, Alexis Myers, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located in the Office Commercial 20 future land use category. It is in the urban service area and within the limits of the Town and Country and Northwest Area community plans. The proposal meets the intent of future land use element Objective 1 on compatibility and Objective 16 on neighborhood protection, as the proposed uses will complement the existing development pattern surrounding the subject site. The surrounding land use pattern is of mixed uses, but comprised mostly of residential uses, vacant land, light commercial, and public, quasi-public institution uses. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed major modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the proposed conditions by the Development Services Department.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? I do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right. I think I see 3 speakers. Please, okay, several. Please come forward and each, okay, we have 15 minutes total. So were there 5 or were there 3 of you? Raise your hands again, please. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it looks like. All right, so 5 speakers over 15 minutes. That would give you 3 minutes each. All right, so please come forward and first state your name and address and make sure that you're speaking into the microphone.
My name is George Danico. I'm the president of the HOA for River Chase. My address is 9002 North River Road, Tampa, Florida, 33635-9106. As president of the HOA, my community is very concerned with the wetlands in particular for this property. We just went through 2 hurricanes and saw the results of what the drainage from the north does to us and how much there is there, and we're very concerned about anything that is going to touch this critical point at the north of the bay. We're the point where the water is going to hit and it's going to come through. So those mangroves and everything are extremely important. The other concerns that we have are with the site. The 220 units, that's about 20 an acre, I guess the way you hash it out. How many cars? 200, 600? Don't know. That's not going to fit in 11 acres real well. If you look at the layout, the entrance and exits for those are going to be an absolute nightmare, both along Memorial Highway, which is already a nightmare in the morning for people trying to go to work, make a left turn out of there to get onto Hillsborough through Double Branch. The new modifications there to try and funnel traffic in place are making it even more difficult for traffic to get through there and to see people that are walking, riding bikes, anything else. I see this as a problem point with traffic congestion. By the way, one of the drives is directly across from Millwork 360, which has nothing but commercial trucks going in and out with wood. So that's going to be very interesting. To the west of this property is a huge warehouse, which is going to bring additional semi-traffic down an area that they just repaved for Memorial Highway. So that's going to be more traffic coming down there. This is frankly much too dense for this area, and we're very concerned on what it's going to do to the those of us upstream from that entrance area. I'll leave for other folks.
All right, thank you, sir. And before you sit down, please sign in with the clerk here. Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Madam Chair, we also have one online as well.
Okay. All right, well, since I divided incorrectly, there's one person online. Is that it? Okay, if we run out of time, then I'll extend the time by 3 minutes since I didn't count that person. So please come forward, sir.
Thank you for having me. My name is Pedro Toledo. I go by Coach Pete. I coach at Alonso High School. And the reason I'm here, I live at 8931 North River Road. We have a beautiful community. I was one of the first persons that moved there and established. We're very close. But we have one way in and one way out. One of the main problems we have is coming down River Road and either making a left, going toward Country Way, or making a right, going to Double Branch. My feelings are that this is going to bring very much traffic. We have a lot of kids that walk to school, to Alonso. There's no sidewalks anywhere, none on River Road, none on Memorial. I would love for the city to please go out there and take a look at this. This also is going to bring a lot of traffic. Right now, there's speeders going down, and the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. You can take the signs and put them away because that doesn't happen. One of the main things that I see as a resident of River Chase is, like Chip said, Mr. Danico, sorry. Like he said, they built a huge warehouse, not even a quarter mile down the street, along with 360. 360 is a bit okay because to us it doesn't bother me that much because the trucks come in, they unload and they leave, and they pretty much, pretty quickly, they don't block traffic that much. Now, there's also a trailer park. The other day, we had a camper that decided to do a 360 on Memorial and got stuck. So now the bridge side, which is on the east side of Memorial, got stuck. We only have one way in. We had to go all the way around Hillsborough Avenue. Flooding. The main concern of all our residents is storms. I think this project is going to raise our level. Those lands are there for a reason. We had almost a lot of homes in our community that were close to being flooded. Luckily, we were blessed and nothing happened, because it's just the way it happened, this hurricane. But a lot of people left their homes because of that, being scared of flooding. If anytime there's a heavy rain, if you go east, that bridge that's down the road gets clogged up, gets closed. I wish somebody could take a look at that also, because that's going to cause additional problems with this traffic. My main concern also is, I have some notes here, I'm sorry. I'm not a public speaker, but I'm decided to leave my baseball game for you guys.
You're almost out of time. You got about 10 seconds. Do you happen to have notes that you could submit to the record that are written?
I can do that. And I appreciate your time. Really, I do. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Be sure that you sign in with the clerk here. All right, next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. Daniel Rojas, 9013 North River Road. I have a few concerns in regards to this project. A couple things, right? This is listed as an evacuation zone A. As we know, we have many houses already in this flood zone. Our concern is we're going to continue to add to this large flooding problem in our area. Existing ground level right now is between 4 to 5 elevation. Base flood levels are around 11, so that means we're going to have to raise it 6 to 7 feet, right? Just to be at base level. So this is going, where's that water going to go to? We've already seen some of those issues. So I have 2 photos here, if I can share them. This one was after one of the storms. I don't know. What do I press? Oh, perfect.
It'll come up. There you go.
This was after a storm in October. This is not a hurricane, as you can already see the impact. The parcel to the right is parcel 1, which is that Wawa. So if you can already see what's already causing on there, can you imagine as we continue to do more development in this area? The second picture I do have as well. is after Hurricane Helene. As you can imagine, that's Double Branch in the back. That's the RV center right there. Again, continuing to think about what we're doing with this development. The flooding issues we already have in our neighborhood is a major concern, especially as we think that this project is approximately going to remove half of the wetlands on site. Right, the previous plan in 1996 was a commercial development avoiding all wetlands, yet that has changed. So one of the key things we want to remember here is wetlands provide mitigation for flooding, water quality, and 1/3 of the U.S. species are dependent on those wetlands. So a couple concerns there. Another concern here is the research staff did talk about the significant trees that are part of this, yet there is a no tree study, and that we saw, and there is a natural concern for us as a public because, as you can see from parcel 1, when we did Wawa, all of those trees were removed, right? So there's a lot of, they even said there was potentially some grand oak that are there, yet all the trees in parcel 1 were removed. And then when we talked about traffic on trip pace generation table, page 7, the document showed no change between existing and proposed average annual trips. I asked the board here, how could that be? How could that be the case, right, when we're adding more development and more people? And then the last thing I'll say here, right, is when we think about this plan, a lot of this was approved in 1996. This was before an entire community was built around this area, and people's families living and the concerns that we have as a community. Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shanae Barlow. I'm at 8908 North River Road. I live in the same community as Daniel as well as George. I'm opposed to the development, and my objections are threefold. The first being the impact on the neighborhood character and the cohesion. The space that they want to put the apartments on is quite small, especially compared to the way everything is laid out in the area. I was told it would be a 4-story building, which, based on how much space, it seems it would be very close to the street line, and isn't very compatible or cohesive with the look of the entire area. Our community has a unique older Florida atmosphere, and I believe that introducing a building like that is going to be a bit disruptive to the balance and the look. My second concern has already been stated: traffic and infrastructure, significant strains on traffic. They are right, that is only really 2 ways out of our community. Very scary when it's flooding, and very busy in the morning if you commute to work or you take kids to school. And my third one would be preserving the natural beauty and the natural resources and green spaces that we have. Many neighborhoods are designed to preserve the green spaces, parks, and trees, and that contributes to the residents' well-being as well as our property appeal. As Daniel already said, they did take out a significant number of trees in order to put up the gas station, which was quite disruptive, just visually. And we have a number of historic trees that kind of line that area as well. So I just believe that too many buildings cramped into that small space doesn't really cultivate an atmosphere of community and peace. In addition to that, I'd like to preserve the neighborhood's integrity and maintain a high quality of life for the current residents. And I think that alternative locations, even not too far away from where we are, would be a better suited location for a high-density housing unit. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Jonathan Brewer, 3432 State Road 580 in Safety Harbor, Florida. I'm here on behalf of the Grace and Faith Church, which is directly across the street from the project. And Grace and Faith has been there for many, many years, but the piece of property that they are in was actually approved by the Board of County Commissioners back in the 80s. Their apron, main apron into the parking lot is 150 feet exactly, based on the standard back in the day, to Hillsborough Avenue. Without any notice whatsoever, there was no necessarily disregard for the project itself, but all of a sudden a median strip showed up on Double Branch Road with no notice to the church, which did cut off egress to the site. Again, that site has been used for over 30 years. For the church itself, it's been 20 years. the senior pastor is here this evening to also support that they received no contact from the applicant or from the property owner about putting in that median strip or cutting off access to that parking lot. That's one issue.
Could you clarify, I'm sorry, when you say cutting off access, that's from that one, from Double Branch Road, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And does that, when you say cut off access there, do you mean that they can't cross the median now, but someone coming from the other direction could come in, right? It doesn't actually close off your access, does it?
It closes off the access from Hillsborough Avenue coming into the church.
Going north and turning left?
Correct.
Okay, but someone could come from the north and turn in right, is that correct? Just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
This gentleman has a copy.
Okay. No, sir, please. I need to hear just from the speaker who's on the microphone right now, and he can explain it. And I think I do understand.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.
And so what we're asking, the actual application for MM 240397, the notice states that additional information may be obtained or a neighborhood meeting may be requested by contacting the applicant or applicant's representative at the number listed above. I tried to contact the applicant, Mr. Gardner, on numerous occasions, and then I finally sent an email to them saying that we needed to put a meeting together. We've lost access, our main access to the church, and it's been used for almost 30 years. And so I have a copy that I will submit to the record of that email. Additionally, the map that they've offered tonight as evidence of this proposal from 96-0340 is not what is being built today.
Okay, you've got about 12 seconds. Did you want to expound on that?
Well, it shows that there would be a cross intersection immediately adjacent to the driveway, our driveway, and that has not been built.
Okay. All right. I'll ask the applicant to address that in their final comments. Thank you, sir. And we have someone online. All right. Did we have 5 speakers already just now? Wasn't that 5?
I don't know how many you had, but my hand was up.
Okay. Well, I have grossly miscounted then, didn't I? All right. Please come forward, sir. You have 3 minutes, and then I'll hear from the person online. And applicant, I'll give you more time to address this in your final comments. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, everyone. My name is Robert Scarallo. I am the senior pastor of Grace and Faith Church. My address is 12749 West Hillsborough Avenue. If I could address this photo, if you could help me here for a moment. One of our primary concerns, and I say primary because there are others, with this medium strip, which is now underwater and you can barely see it in the picture, to the right of the medium strip to enter into the Wawa property, there is a curb that makes it a very specific lane. What that means is you have maybe 200 feet where if a car gets stuck coming off of Hillsborough Avenue, either from the east or the west, it will create a complete blockage, bringing traffic all the way back into Hillsborough Avenue. Aside from that, we have lost our main entrance, our primary entrance to our property. You don't buy a property on an 8-lane road, pay millions of dollars so that your customers or your 400 congregants have to come in through the back of the property. This devalues our property tremendously, and unfortunately, we have 400 congregants that are very, very dissatisfied with what has happened here. On top of that, several gentlemen referenced the fact that if you go down Old Memorial heading west, there is a new development, a very large warehouse that has over 50 truck bays. The amount of traffic that is going to be going through this little road is ridiculously over what this road can handle, especially with that medium there. God forbid a car, a truck, or a mobile home that goes to the mobile park just to the right ever gets stuck again. There is no way, because of the medium, you cannot go around any blockage or stalled vehicle or anything. Further to that, we are a church, and we have events for young families with their children. We run children's church. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that gas stations like this do sell alcohol. This is within the 500 feet, and we have nothing but a problem primarily with this medium strip. We have never been consulted. No one has ever talked to us. We mow the city's sidewalk. We edge the sidewalk. We try to make our property look beautiful. We try to be community friendly. We are always serving the community, and we find this a disservice. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Be sure and sign in, please. All right, I think that is all of the speakers who are here in this room. Is that correct? And we have someone online. We'll go to the online speaker now.
Hi, my name is Barbara Maselli. I live at 8811 North River Road, Tampa, Florida, 33635. I am against this particular project specifically for the two facts that have been spoken to previously. 220 community development will have at least a minimum of 220 vehicles. Concern again is with that Old River Road. The road is in terrible condition. Heading east on that road, and County Road, or I'm sorry, Country Way, is already getting backed up and would be that much more difficult for more cars to go through. Second is very concerned about the water runoff into Double Branch Road. Apart from the flooding pictures that you have seen, any type of pavement is going to have much more runoff because you've reduced mangroves and other wetlands. And that is going to significantly impact our neighborhood, which is on that river chase of Double Branch. We are assured to see increased rising levels because of runoff. And we just don't feel that, again, for 220 multi-family residents is in alignment with what's best for the wetlands and for the traffic in that community.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Okay, County Development Services. Anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right, and applicant. So applicant, do you think you can address these issues within 10 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll give you up to 10 minutes, and I know you have your team with you tonight. So I heard concerns about flooding, a lot of issues with flooding, character of the community, of course, traffic, lots of concerns about traffic, and maybe you could also have someone address that median, and that may be related to actually the development that's already taken place out there.
Sure.
So please address that in your comments. Thank you.
And actually, Ms. Hearing-Master had one more, which was the desire for sidewalks.
Yes, that's true.
List.
I wrote that down as well. Thank you.
Great. So on wetlands and flooding, again, Truett Gardner 400 North Ashley Drive, we have worked very, very closely with EPC on that. We have their finding of consistency. There's still work to be done with them as we finalize this plan, but by no means will we have a negative impact on those wetlands. With us tonight is Tim Nelner. He's our environmental expert with height. Should you have any questions of him, he's more than happy to, he'd be more than happy to answer those. But again, we've been...
Well, maybe, because you just stated that there would be no impacts on the wetland, but I believe there are impacts on the wetland, but that'll be compensated, is that right? So maybe that needs to be clarified.
Okay. So Tim can speak to that. On traffic, as Addie showed you, which was put together by our expert traffic engineer, if this option 2 is approved, it will be a substantial reduction in traffic. So I think it's easy to say increased traffic, but I think what's not being factored in is the taking away the Wawa, the 83,000, almost 84,000 square feet of commercial entitlements that are already approved. So that can't be looked at in a vacuum. We've got to look at that as to what is currently approved today.
Okay, and just to clarify that also, if this rezone or modification is approved, if it's approved, then both of those options are still available. Is that correct?
Correct.
So the development that is approved now and could go forward has a number related to it as far as traffic impacts.
Right.
And then the residential that is being proposed will have a different number, and that number is actually less than what is already approved. Is that correct?
Yes.
But
and
both options will remain.
Both options will remain,
thank
but I
you.
can say, and our client is here, the preferred option is the multifamily option, which would provide less traffic than the currently approved 83,000 some odd square feet of commercial. So that's traffic. The desire for sidewalks, Ms. Clark has a graphic. We will be providing sidewalks. Just to make a comment, we did hear from Mr. Brewer, and we'll get into that comment on the median. But a lot of these, hopefully, I think could have been satisfied before. These are the only person we've heard from was Mr. Brewer. So sidewalks will be provided. And then next was the compatibility and the size of the site, seeming to intimate that it's a small site. It's over 8 acres is this parcel 2. So it's a large site. And again, as I mentioned in my presentation, and again, you're correct in saying both options will be preferred or preserved, but the preferred option is the multifamily option. I feel that that's a much more better transitional use to these residences to the east than the 83,000 some odd square feet of commercial. And again, that is, I don't want to be disingenuous because the 83,000 will be preserved, but the preferred option is the multifamily. And so with that, I'll leave time for Tim Nelder to speak, but perhaps before him, Addie Clark on the access issue in the median.
Okay, and just quickly, was there a neighborhood meeting, or did you, was there an effort to organize a neighborhood meeting with the surrounding?
So notices sent, signs posted, only call that came in was from Mr. Brewer that I'm aware of. And so that's what we heard, and that's what we were trying to answer to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Addie Clark, 400 North Ashley Drive. So to speak again, there will be sidewalk improvements. So again, as part of the gas station approval, there's sidewalk all throughout the site along Memorial, Hillsborough, and then Double Branch Road, as well as significant improvements to some of the pavement and then the widths there for those turn lanes that are coming, and then some of the through lanes that currently exist. So there are infrastructure improvements that are coming, online very soon. And then in terms of, I know there was some mention of setbacks potentially, so just wanted to mention there's a 25-foot front yard setback from the multifamily to Hillsborough, and then as well as to Memorial. And then to hit on traffic really quickly, so the ITE, Institute of Transportation Engineers, Trip Generation Manual, 11th edition, is industry standard data points that have data points from multiple areas around the country for commercial uses as well as residential. And so commercial is a very high generating use. And so that is the reasoning for that difference there that we spoke about. And then as well as, I'll speak a little bit to that raised median on Double Branch Road. So just wanted to point out that actually because of that, it being a safety improvement, was requested by the county, the transportation department, during the Wawa construction approval. And that actually limits the access for this project on Double Branch Road to just be a right-in only. And so that, of course, access being important to everyone, for all businesses and all groups, was not the preferred option here, but of course we understand that's a safety improvement with being so close to that very large signalized intersection to the south. So ultimately understood why the county's transportation department was implementing that requirement. And so wanted to speak to that, and I can introduce Tim Neldner for specific questions about the wetlands.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Tim Neldner with Height Design, 5904A Hampton Oaks Parkway, Tampa. Just put this here. See that one? Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, part of the detailed assessment that we had to do on the property was for the habitat, which is this. This is the wetland delineation along the creek, feeds into the creek. This is an isolated wetland here and another little isolated wetland here. You can see that the retaining walls that are being proposed are along the wetlands that where Double Branch Creek is on the east side here. So in this area where this building in this particular picture is being shown, site plan that we provided to the Environmental Protection Commission, this area here that's being impacted was, let me slide this over so you can see the coloration. Okay, and let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, that area is dominated by Brazilian pepper, which is a nuisance exotic vegetation. So that area there is what's going to be impacted by the development. The mangroves that they're talking about, this area here where you see that little red line, that's the area where the mean high water line comes into the property, and that's where the mangroves are congregated, if you will. That's where they're located right there. So we're actually not impacting the mangrove habitat. So the effect on listed species and that type of thing is very minor here because they're pretty much hanging out on the creek, if you will, and that type of thing. So we're not really affecting them too much. And again, we had no objections with conditions from EPC.
Okay, and
Can we keep that there?
Well, I guess I had one question about the compensation areas. Are there?
Okay, there's no on-site mitigation proposed. Mitigation will be happening by mitigation credits that'll be purchased from a mitigation bank.
No, that's not.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm using the wrong term. Is there a retention pond on site or anything like that?
I'll let our engineer address that. How's that?
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Laram. I'm with Kimley Horn & Associates, representing the civil engineer on the project, 201 North Franklin Street. So for the stormwater system, we are proposing all underground underneath the parking lot. Something I did want to point out or bring up is we are having to account for coastal floodplain. So we are building, the reason for the retaining walls is we have to build up to account for storm surge. So that is the reason for the height of the retaining walls and why we have them, why we need them. Beneath the parking lot, we are proposing a substantial amount of underground stormwater chambers. Something else I'd like to point out, just for how we're designing these stormwater chambers is we're aware we're right underneath FDOT's bridge crossing here. So with that, we will be subject to all of FDOT's requirements for a situation like this. So running their floodplain modeling, their extra storm events, I believe they have a matrix of 36 storm events we'll have to account for.
There were some comments about the neighborhood around there experiencing flooding now. Could you opine on whether this development, once completed, might actually help alleviate any of that?
I mean, it's hard to say. It looked like the pictures they were showing looked like it was a construction condition, as in not a finished stormwater system. But from our perspective, we will meet all criteria for both the county, working with the county's floodplain engineer. We also are going to maintain existing flow patterns. So existing flow patterns go to the creek. We're going to maintain our connection to the creek. We're not adding anything to the roadway.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No. Okay, just a second. Speaker, Thank you, and be sure and sign in with the clerk. And for the public members sitting behind, the public comment time is over, so I'm not going to hear from you again. So Mr. Brewer, all right, I've lost my names now. Applicant, please come back to the, thank you.
Because our law firm is Gardner Brewer.
Yes, I know. Mr. Gardner. And your colleague may have addressed this, but I might have missed it. That median that the church mentioned.
Yes.
That was a requirement of the county, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And I believe counties online, they could speak much more intelligently to that than me, but that is correct.
Okay. There were some photographs, and actually, applicant, this isn't addressed to you, but there were some photographs that were shown by the public speakers, and I just want to make sure that those have been submitted to the clerk. If they have not been submitted to the clerk, would you please do so?
Elmo, do you want me to?
And I believe it was Mr. Danico. If you would please submit those photographs to the clerk and make sure they get in the record. Thank you. So I'm sorry about that. That's all the questions I believe I had for you. Thank you so much.
Madam Hearing Officer, I was advised that transportation staff is online and would like to make some comments.
Okay, good. We'll hear from transportation staff then. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, James Ratliff, Development Services Transportation Review. I was a reviewer on this case. I wanted to kind of go through a couple of things that I heard and just provide some additional information. There was a citizen that was talking about traffic on Memorial Highway, and as you're aware, generally because of state law, we're not allowed to consider capacity issues, but I did want to point out that Memorial Highway is on the corridor preservation plan as a future 4-lane roadway. I believe sidewalk issue was already addressed, so I won't put anything further into the record unless you have any questions about that. With respect to the way the trip generation was calculated in the report, I believe Truett touched on this already a little bit, but I think what the citizen was saying is expressing, there's nothing on the site today, so how can it be, showing that there's no change in trip impacts. And I just wanted to put a little bit more detail into the record. Again, we don't look at it in terms of what's there today being, just a greenfield site and then developing it. Of course, there's going to be additional trips from that. What we do in our report is look at it from the standpoint of what the existing zoning is. And so that baseline is the existing zoning option, which is 90,000 square feet of commercial uses. And so because that is the most intensive option, the one that's already approved, and because if they develop these apartment uses, the trips will actually go down, that's why we say that there's no change, because they're keeping that most intense option that's already been approved. So I just wanted to kind of explain that for the citizens a little bit there. There was a comment that talked about the design of the intersection, that it was intended to create a cross with the church across the street. That existing 1996 zoning plan is very conceptual. Those kind of level of design details are not shown on that site plan anywhere on the site plan. And so just because it looks like that doesn't mean that that's what it was intended. Typically back in 1996, those level of design details weren't looked at the zoning stage. And that's been a lot of time between then and now. And we know a lot more about roadway safety. And so to their concern about traffic backing out into Hillsborough Avenue, that's precisely why one of the reasons why we're wanting to put that median in. And we don't want a car that's sitting there, somebody trying to turn left, to back traffic out because of the high opposing volumes. There were other considerations as well that went into why that median was required in terms of traffic going across. But if this case were to withdraw tonight, that median would still be there because it was approved as a part of the construction plan set for that Wawa under a different design exception under the original option 1 site plan. So I did want to clarify that as well. And with that, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, no, I don't have any more questions for you, Mr. Ratliff. Thank you so much for addressing those items.
Sure.
And development service, that was all that y'all had,
yes,
right?
Ma'am.
Okay. Okay, this will close the hearing then on major modification 24-0397. So,
Our next application is item D2, Major Mod 24-0691. The applicant is requesting a major modification to PD 07-1310. This application does have a companion comprehensive plan amendment. Therefore, both the comprehensive plan amendment and this rezoning will be heard at the December 12th BOCC CPA hearing, which begins at 6 p.m. And for this application, Tim Lampkin with Development Services will provide staff findings, and you should have received a revised staff report, which did provide an update to condition number 12 in terms of the number of access points.
All right, thank you. I do have the revised staff report, and we'll hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Officer. My name is Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451, St. Petersburg. We have this evening with us both our civil engineer and our transportation expert for any questions that you might have. This is a Major Mod 24-0691. Issue is a major modification for an approved PD. The proposed major mod requests the following: 4,508 square feet, fast food restaurant with a drive-through, 100,500 square foot mini storage facility, allow a maximum of 21,175 square feet of offices. Planning Commission staff and Planning Commission board found the companion application consistent. The Development Services Department does support the rezoning. I will also say to you, interestingly enough, that the prior approval, which was 07, which I have a note here, 07-1310, of which we're asking a major modification for, the Planning Commission staff did find that in approval at that time. So we are located in the Gibsonton area, and this is located right at Gibsonton Drive at I-275. Looking a little closer, it involves a number of parcels. Property appraiser has it at 11.94 acres. You'll see we're right on Gibsonton Drive, and on the side there, as you see, is noted the I-75 ramp, and Old Gibsonton Drive runs along the rear. This is the site by aerial. You can see that there really is tremendous development, obviously around an area like the I-75 interstate and the major arterial like Gibsonton Drive. And again, this site is serviced by the I-75 ramp. And this is a further detailed aerial showing you some of the uses: Walmart, AMC, shopping centers, commercial uses, and there is residential, which is in vicinity or close vicinity to the site before us today. The currently approved plan is a PD 07-1310. It had a mix of uses: 83,150 square feet, bank and retail, hotel, 88-room hotel, and office buildings. Per the zoning map and per the future land use map, you can see that the intensities in the area, or the intensities of the future land use map, match the uses that are in the immediate area and vicinity. Critically, and I think one of the most important elements of this plan and this project has come forward, was listening and making significant changes that we heard from the residents in the immediate area. So our original proposed PD submitted plan was mini storage, 3 multifamily buildings, and 1 drive-through. We did meet with neighbors, and we had a good group show up, and they brought forward some very specific and important concerns. And we, our team and the applicant, we went back, we looked at everything, listened to the residents' concern, and we made significant changes to the plan, in which that all the multifamily was taken out. In place of it is an office use, better wetland management, and increased screening. So in the record from Michelle Pineda, if I said her name correctly, on behalf of the Alafaya River Estate community, which is the community immediately to the rear, she notes that we are pleased with the revision to the plan, particularly the removal of the residential use. Glad you addressed the environmental concerns and additional suggestions with respect to screening that we prefer berms, trees, and shrubs. As a trip comparable, per the staff report, with the changes compared to the current entitlements and current approval, there is a two-volume reduction of 552 trips, which we think is very significant. Looking at the Gibson Community Plan, when you look at under item 4, economy, enhancing opportunity of small professional business and specialty neighborhood on Gibsonton Drive, this would specifically apply itself. Designate Gibsonton Drive a signature corridor to encourage small-scale business development, which under the office uses it would, and also the one commercial use. And walkability strategy, encourage or ensure incorporation of sidewalks. We have added, as an additional element, a 10-foot trail all along the rear on Old Gibsonton Drive. And of course, office uses, as I've indicated, has been included. The Planning Commission makes a lot of findings that's compatible, consistent, meets the intent of a number of objectives, meets the policy direction of the community design component, and meets the intent of the community plans, and does include appropriate setbacks, buffers, and connectivity with conjunction with many different types of policies. However, not speaking for the Planning Commission, of course, they found one policy of a concern, which notes the development of higher intensity of non-residential uses near established neighborhoods shall be restricted to arterials, collective roadways. At the same time, in the same paragraph, the Planning Commission notes that they do understand the county transportation staff has concerns with access being often Gibson to Drive based upon safety and spacing criteria. And what we found is that the majority of that Gibsonton frontage is within the FDOT limited access right-of-way, signalized intersection, and connection spacing issues, which would preclude that access point, and a policy that also reviews that.
Okay, can I stop you then? Just, sure. Would you say that it's impracticable, at least, or potentially impossible to, for this site, for this development, to meet that comprehensive plan policy?
That is absolutely correct, yes.
Okay.
And that is the purpose of presenting it, yes.
All right, thank you.
So we have sent out 3 sets of notices with 31 labels. And there are a couple comments just about a specific traffic concern, which has been addressed by the county staff and by our traffic engineer. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions and concerns you might have.
Okay. I had one note here. You mentioned something about PD 07-1310, that the Planning Commission found it, I think you said approvable at that time. Did you mean just it was found consistent? Planning Commission staff found it consistent at that time?
The prior PD, correct.
The prior PD?
Yes, correct.
And did it have the same access problem as it still does?
I don't believe, well, I should say it's my understanding, I believe that issue, I can't say for sure whether that issue was existing at the time. What I wanted to double check was it was very much similar plan, and I was just checking the status of that consistency finding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all my questions.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tim Lampkin, Development Services. So the subject property is located approximately 12 acres on the north side of Gibsonton Drive and the south side of Old Gibsonton Drive, with the intersection of Gibsonton Drive and Old Gibsonton Drive approximately 850 feet west of the I-75 off-ramp. The project is located in the Gibsonton Community Plan area. And as the applicant stated, there is a companion comprehensive plan amendment, HC CPA 24-21, that's associated with the subject property. A proposed major modification 24-0691 requests the change that the applicant actually went into detail, and I can kind of do that again, allows a maximum of 4,508 square feet for fast food restaurant with a drive-through. Second, to allow a maximum 100,500 square feet mini storage facility. And lastly, allow a maximum 21,175,000 square feet of offices. The applicant proposes to replace the current allowable uses, which include a maximum of 3,600 square feet of bank retail and an 88-room hotel. If approved, this option would no longer exist. The proposed use divvies up the site into Lot 1 with the fast food restaurant with drive-through that's located to the south of the property. The 100,500 square foot mini storage is Lot 2, which is in the middle. And the office space is in Lot 3, which is to the north. The proposed increase in the square feet of 44,808 equates to a total development of 126,183 square feet of development. Staff notes that pursuant to Land Development Code Section 6.11.35.b.1, order boxes for drive-throughs are required to be more than 200 feet from residentially zoned properties. Thank you so much for pointing that out, that initially the applicant had requested a waiver, but they're 213 feet away and they do not need that waiver, and it's reflected in the conditions. The applicant is also required to have an 8-foot vehicle use area, which they discussed about the enhanced buffers along the northern and southern boundary adjacent to the street network. The applicant is proposing the required 8-foot vehicle use buffer area with landscaping, including evergreen trees, every 20 feet instead of 40 feet, thereby doubling the amount of evergreen trees above what is required. As the applicant stated, the Planning Commission staff finds the proposed modification inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Transportation staff found the request approvable subject to conditions, and that does conclude my presentation.
All right, and I'll ask you, but maybe we need to hear from transportation staff on that access question. Was it a condition that was required by transportation that there wouldn't be an access along Gibson Drive?
Are you talking about condition 12 that was changed? The condition 12 initially said one access point, and that was just a Scrivener's error, and it should have said 2.
Talking about the, I guess the issue, the policy on which the Planning Commission found the major modification inconsistent with a comprehensive plan. And my question to the applicant was, is it impracticable, is it impossible for this site to comply with that policy? So it seems to be a policy of the comprehensive plan and that applies to this site, but that this site can't comply with.
I am going to let Mr. Perez answer that question. I know he's on the line.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Zoning Hearing Officer. This is Richard Perez with Transportation Review. The applicant did not propose a plan to access Gibsonton Drive directly. But I will say that there would be certainly issues with trying to access directly to Gibsonton Drive from the subject property. Not only is a substantial portion of that frontage FDOT right-of-way in the area of influence of I-75 off-ramp, which carries high volume, high-speed traffic, but there's also a westbound to northbound turn lane along the remaining portion of that frontage that is under the county jurisdiction. which would create conflicts with traffic entering and exiting directly to Gibsonton Drive.
Okay. I believe I understand then. Thank you. Thank you for addressing that.
My pleasure.
All right. So Planning Commission.
Okay, Alexis Myers, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located in the suburban mixed use, future land use category. The proposed major modification is running concurrently with HCCPA 2421, which proposes to amend the future land use category to community mixed use 12. The site is in the urban service area and located within the limits of the Gibsonton and South Shore area-wide systems community plans. The two main access points are located on Old Gibsonton Drive, a local road which is in direct conflict with Future Land Use Element Policy 16.5, which describes that the development of higher intensity non-residential uses near established neighborhoods shall be restricted to arterials and collective roadways. The site also has frontage on Gibsonton Drive, which is an arterial roadway. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff find the proposed major modification inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the proposed conditions by the Development Services Department.
All right, thank you. One question for Planning Commission. Are you aware of any provision in the comprehensive plan that addresses a situation where a site that wishes to develop, it's because of a situation that related to that site makes it impossible or impracticable to comply with that policy regarding access?
I am not too certain, actually.
And I guess any policy of the comprehensive plan, if a site can't comply with it, you know, you don't know of a provision that addresses that?
Not for this this particular policy.
Okay. All righty, thank you. Okay, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, don't hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application?
Yes. Chair, we have 2 online.
All right, 2 online and 1 person here. So that's 3 speakers. Is that all? Okay, so you each will have 5 minutes, and I'm going to hear from the person here first. Please come forward.
Is that me?
No, I'm going to hear from the person here in the room, and then I'm going to hear from the online speakers. So just stand by. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Roseanne Hammock. I represent Circle K Stores, Inc., 3802 Corporex Park Drive, Suite 200, Tampa, Florida, 33619. We oppose the project due to the median on Old Gibsonton Drive. It will impede access for our customers and delivery trucks. We spoke to the county today, and they had concerns with it looked like trucks might be turning into our site, going on the grass, but we believe that was due to a food truck that was parking there. We did not receive notification of a neighborhood meeting to discuss the project, so we just want to go on record opposing the median. And I have some paperwork from our tanker truck company.
You can submit that to the clerk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next speaker here. Was there another speaker here? I believe there were 2 online then, I'm sorry. So we'll go to the online speakers.
Okay, I'm Dominic Profundi. I live at 9910 Alafire River Lane, Gibsonton. And I gotta say, I'm not totally opposed to the project, but I'm opposed to the road proposed upgrades and really the lack of upgrades. I'm actually looking forward to seeing it develop because right now it's just a garbage dump and a homeless encampment. But we need a serious upgrade at the intersection of Old Gibsonton and Gibsonton for them to put a median in with a 12-foot lane on each side, we'll be trapped back here. We won't be able to get out. And the median makes it so that if we go to the gas station, we can't turn back in and to just drive home. We have to drive out onto Old Gibsonton Road, hang a U-turn, and then drive back in. I mean, that can be dangerous at times. You know, we only have one way out for all the people that live back here. So that needs to be addressed. We really could use a right turn lane, a straight lane, and a left turn lane getting out of here. The road's a wreck right now. The county's constantly there patching it, but it's a mess because the Circle K project should have really addressed some of this with probably a right turn lane. But that wasn't built back when that was done. So now we're going to add like over 1,000 more cars in there. That's just crazy. And the transportation study, I don't think it took into account the 101 townhouses that were just approved across the street on Old Gibsonton. And then, you know, I don't think they did a real like traffic count. They just use, you know, theory out of some manual, and they should be doing a traffic count because Circle K has a lot of traffic coming out of there and a lot of trucks. You know, it's one of the best places to fuel up before you go to the boat ramp. So there's a lot of people towing big boats going through there. Then also the rest of the road is a disaster. I mean, it hasn't been worked on in probably over 60 years since before they put in the highway. The shoulders are non-existent. The road edges are all broken. It really needs some work. And frankly, I don't even think the developer should have to pay for all this. This road has been neglected for years. And then in looking at their design exception that they put in for, their section view really didn't take into account the median, so that kind of throws their whole thing off. And again, like I said, with the traffic study, I think they need some actual measurements, and they need to include Circle K and the proposed development that is approved right across the street, because that's going to show at least a right turn lane, and even that I don't think is sufficient. And that's all I have to say.
All right, sir, thank you very much. All right, the next speaker online, please.
Yes, my name is Michelle Pineda, and I'm the treasurer with Alafai River Estate HOA, and I reside at 9918 Alafai River Lane in Gibsonton, and we're the community that is directly across the street from the proposed development on Old Gibsonton Drive. I do want to state that I am in approval of the proposed development, and you know, we did work with Mr. Pressman on getting that development changed, specifically the residential component that was removed with the one-story office buildings. So we are in approval of the development. However, we have been consistent and persistent. I did speak with Mr. Pressman, sent him emails, phone conversations with him along with county staff of our concerns with the as far as vehicle traffic at that corner of Gibsonton Drive and Old Gibsonton Drive. And the current site plan is only asking for that 150 linear foot safety barrier there, which we believe is going to cause more problems because it's going to force or it's going to redirect traffic across Old Gibsonton Drive into the Circle K. However, there's only one way out, specifically heading eastbound back on the Gibsonton Drive back to 75, which is where the majority of the traffic's coming from. So you're just going to have a mess there without any turn lanes. So we've been specifically asking for turn lanes, a right turn lane, a center lane, and a left turn lane. And I've communicated with county staff, specifically Mr. Lampkin, and also had a lengthy conversation with Mr. Perez about trying to get those modifications. Unfortunately, to no avail. I understand in speaking with Mr. Perez that the traffic study was perhaps a big indicator in their decision just to add that safety barrier. There was no consideration in taking, as far as the future land use element 16.5, which the Planning Commission found inconsistent. And actually, I was not aware of that policy, in my conversation with Mr. Perez. So, I heard the conversation about the need to have access on a major road versus a local road. But what we're looking for is some kind of common ground, because I can logically understand why you can't put an access point on Gibsonton Drive in light of 75 and that exit ramp, but at least do some major modifications to that intersection, some kind of common ground there. So that's my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And I believe that was all of our speakers. Is that correct? All the public speakers. Okay. County Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right. And applicant? And I just want one question for you, Mr. Pressman. Just looking at the site plan and the map. So the I-75 off-ramp is to the east of this property. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then that sort of merges into Gibsonton Drive, which is on the south.
Correct.
And then Old Gibsonton Drive is on the west and the north. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, and your access points are both onto Old Gibsonton Drive. There's no other roadways that your access could be on. It has to be Old Gibsonton Drive or Gibsonton Drive. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I understand the map correctly that I'm looking at.
Oh, sure, of course. I'll make two short comments. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Yates. One is there is an LDC item or code 6.04.03, which does recognize access is preferred and encouraged to the lesser classification of roadway. It's never prohibited, especially when no legal right or access exists. And secondly, the only other comment I'll make is that as we've shown, what we're proposing as compared to current allowed uses is a tremendous reduction in trips. I don't have it for me, but it's 500 and some trips. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Yates. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Michael Yates with Palm Traffic, and I have been sworn. I just want to kind of go through and address some of the comments that were raised, both with access to Gibsonton Drive and then also related to the comments on the traffic study. And let me start with just a general aerial here so you can see. So this is Gibsonton Drive on the approach to Old Gibsonton Drive. And what the issue is that there is an existing LA line, which is a limited access DOT right-of-way, that comes all the way to kind of about where this truck is. And I am going to show you you can actually see the fence out there. You can see the fence right here. And so that's what really prohibits any access, even from a county perspective, is that limited access. DOT will not let you do an access. They will not even let us touch that fence or any vegetation around that fence. So that is completely limited to what you can do. And the problem we have then is that you're then in the approach to the intersection with an exclusive right turn lane there. And so
then let me just, same question I asked Mr. Pressman, and that was, then basically, it sounds like it's impossible for this site to develop and comply with that comprehensive plan policy.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And the previous plan that was approved was very similar to this. It actually had 3 access points to Old Gibsonton and a commercial out parcel, office uses. So very similar in makeup of the development and very similar in access. Want to also address the comments we received on the traffic study. We did do traffic counts out there as part of this project. We did seasonally adjust them to account for the peak season week of the year. And then we also did add in the townhome project that aligns with our southern access point. The county made sure, let me see if I have the site plan. The county made sure that we accounted for that in our plan and aligning with that access point. And we do show it on our site plan that we are going to be aligning with that driveway. I'm going to put on my glasses so I can actually see it. But you can see here on the site plan, we do show that driveway to the townhome project and that we are aligning with that driveway. So we did account for that in the traffic study and included those numbers in there. And as to the intersection operation, we show in our traffic study that that operates at acceptable level of service, both during the AM peak hour and the PM peak hour with the existing traffic, the peak season traffic, the background traffic, and our project on top of it. And then as to the inclusion of the separator, that was done in discussions with transportation staff. This is the existing driveway to the Circle K. You can see right here. And so this is the signalized intersection of Gibsonton and Old Gibsonton. And so the issue that is occurring out there is this driveway was located approximately 100 feet north of the stop bar on Old Gibsonton. Current spacing standards is 235 feet. So very short of that distance and right on the approach to the intersection. And so in addition to the issue that you can obviously see of continual truck turns coming off of the roadway and then crossing the road, which has deteriorated a lot of the road in that area. And as you can see on the aerial, it's done some significant damage. Adding the separator, we're going to correct that damage by adding the separator and extending the road over to accommodate that. But what it also helps alleviate is the issue with cars coming northbound from the intersection and then trying to make this turn when you get people coming out of this turn and heading south. So it's really an operational issue as much as anything else. And so the traffic separator will help alleviate that. And so the benefit is that the Circle K does have access that allows them the eastbound left in just to the west side of the intersection. And happy to answer any other questions you may have.
I believe you've addressed all of my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so this will close then the hearing on major modification 24-0691. I believe at this time, it's 8:03, we're going to take a 5-minute break. So we'll come back in 5 minutes. All right, we're going to reconvene. This is the October 28th, 2024 zoning hearing master meeting. And we'll give everybody a moment to get resettled. All right, I think we're ready to hear the next case.
Our next case is item D3, PD rezoning 24-0722. The applicant is requesting to rezone property zone PD 07-1767 and AS1 to PD. Jared Folan with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
All right, applicant.
Let me see if I may. It's Shilpin.
Yeah, that was this one. I think maybe even
Yeah, Shilpin. There we go. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Hearing Officer. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. This is RZ Standard 24-0729. Planning Commission, Development Services, Transportation, all support the request. The request is for 16 single-family homes. We're in the Riverview South Shore area, 3.14 acres. We are near the area of Big Ben and 301. This is the site as shown in the highlight by the property appraiser. It's composed of 3 parts, Part 1 and Part 2, and then you see Part 3 is a PRS to take out of that PD and put it in this PD. So the issue is AS1 and PD all into a PD for single-family residential. This is the zoning map, single-family residential virtually throughout the area and vicinity. Comparable lots, future land use map, R9, R4, R6, variety of densities in the immediate area. This is the PD plan that shows a maximum, there would be a maximum of 16 lots, 5.1 lots per acre. This is the PD with the surrounding, as you can see again, is all single family. Lot development standards for the proposed plan development are, this is from the zoning department. Lot development standards for the proposed plan development are like the RSC 10 zoning district with 4,000 square foot lots and minimum width of 40 feet. Planning Commission report notes meets the intent of quite a number of policies and it will complement the surrounding area. They note it meets the intent of Goal 2 of the Riverview Community Plan and the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Community Plan. Development Services does not foresee any concerns for the surrounding area. It's primarily single family. Density of the proposed development is appropriate, does not pose any negative elements, and included is a lot data table. On this request, we did have a number of notices. If I'm checking real quick here, please. We did 3 separate notices, noticing 81 individuals. When I last checked a few days ago, there were still no comments or emails of concern. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. I don't have any questions for you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jared Fallon with Development Services. So as the applicant has stated, this area is primarily residential. It is mostly single family. There are 2 larger neighborhoods to the north and to the east. The density for those to the north is 3.38 dwelling units per acre, and to the east is 4.6 dwelling units per acre, so the proposed is similar. As far as compatibility, we don't have many concerns. Residential area, appropriate. There's no negative impacts to either the proposed or the existing. We did have a condition added, if you look to number 3, we worded it similarly to the north, which requires some design requirements for the lots. As he stated with the PRS, it is just to remove that eastern property from the existing PD, and it will run concurrently with this PD request, BOCC. As far as that, we have no compatibility concerns, and we are recommending approval subject to the conditions, and no agencies have they all recommend approval.
All right, thank you so much. No questions for you. All right, Planning Commission?
Yes, Alexis Myers, Planning Commission. The subject property is located in the residential 6 and suburban mixed use 6 future land use categories. The site is in the urban service area and located within the limits of the Riverview and South Shore Area-Wide Systems community plans. The proposal to allow single-family uses is compatible with the surrounding area as it is comprised mostly of single-family and meets the intent of Objective 1 on compatibility and Objective 16 on neighborhood protection, and its accompanying policies of the future land use element. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the proposed conditions of the Development Services Department.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, I do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Applicant, anything further?
Thank you.
All right, that will close the hearing on PD 24-0722. I'm sorry, rezoning PD 240722.
Our next application is item D4, PD rezoning 24-0789. The applicant is requesting to rezone property from ASC 1 to Plan Development. Jared Folan with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Applicant?
Good evening, Madam Chair. Jesse Blackstock with Blackstock & Associates at 1646 West Snow Avenue here in Tampa. Here on behalf of the applicant and the owner of the parcel in question, Christopher Schlock, LLC. The parcel in question is, let me see, I got a page down. Yeah, there we go. The parcel in question is 2.94 acres. It's situated at 7805 East Sly Avenue in Tampa. The current land use is vacant agricultural land. The current zoning is ASC 1. The current future land use is CMU 12. The project is located within the East Lake Orient Park planning area, and the purpose of the PD rezoning request is to allow for up to 24 townhome units, roughly 8.16 dwelling units per acre, which is far less than the maximum allowed per the CMU 12. There have been recent rezonings, PD rezonings to our east, that was recently approved for townhome projects of considerable size, similar to our size as well as density. The other remaining adjacent parcels to our south is RSC 6, and to our west it's also ASC 1 as well as RSC 4, and then again to our north on the other side of the Sly right-of-way, the existing zoning is ASC 1. Regarding the actual site plan itself, and more specifically, as stated, we're asking for approval tonight of a 24 townhomes units in size. There are jurisdictional wetlands on site. We've gone through that process with EPC and had those delineated. We are not proposing any impacts as part of our project. We've gone through several iterations with staff in terms of the sufficiency reviews to minimize those impacts, and at this point we're at 0 impacts, with including the buffers themselves. And the importance there, the significance is typically with a project, especially to our east, we would have some connectivity with internal drives. Our driveway is proposed as a private drive, so we are allowed to do the T-type dead-end treatment. And the main focus there is we were trying to, of course, minimize wetland impacts. So that's the main reason we couldn't punch through, if you will, to the east and connect those two projects. They have a similar issue on their western boundary. As far as actual surrounding uses, again, we are surrounding a single family, so we do have a a 5-foot type A buffer to our south and to our west, as long as along the whole perimeter of the PD. The one waiver that we did request was for the height variance, so we are allowed up to 35 feet, which is a 3-story complex, or unit, if you will, and that's what we're proposing. And so when you go over 20 feet, you're supposed to have an additional 2 feet for every 1 foot over that 20 feet. So we are asking for a reduction in that. Our minimum setback to the rear of, or I should say the perimeter of the property is 15 feet. Our justification with that is we are trying to maintain that 24 units. We've lost several when we took out the punch through with the wetlands. So trying to maintain the wetland integrity and not have any impacts, but at the same time have a decent sized livable space. Our units are proposed at 19 by 42. And then, of course, we have larger end cap units, just like your typical townhouse project with respect to the lots themselves. Our lot sizes are, again, are a function of the townhome units themselves. So the lot sizes minimums are 19 by 83 foot deep, and then the external or the end caps would be that plus the 7.5 foot side yards to maintain the fire code, 15 foot between buildings. So the lot sizes end up being about 1577 for the internal lots, and then a total of 21, almost 2,200 square feet for the external units, counting the front and rear yards that we're proposing. The other applicant commitments that we have are off-site commitments. We've mirrored, if you will, or mimicked what was approved to our east. Again, it was a similar townhome project of bigger acreage, and so it's got more units, but the density is roughly the same as ours. So this Sly Avenue from Orient Road to 301 basically is the study area. And we did have, break it into two sections essentially. We have a west section and an east section. The majority of the design exception that we were receiving is and commitment, if you will, is an extension of a sidewalk, as you can see on the graphic, from basically as you can see on the graphic, from the west side of the property to our east side, to the other side of the folio next to us, which was that other PD. So for 24 units, that's a considerable amount of, I would, in my experience, say that's a pretty big ask, and we were willing to move forward with that as a design exception. So that's been approved and on the record. I would say in summary, again, we're asking the parcel is ASC 1, the future land use is CMU 12. The proposed zoning is planned development to allow for up to 24 townhomes with a density of 8.16 dwelling units per acre. That's well below, again, but well below the 12 units per acre that were allowed. The project is not within a flood zone. It's in a coastal high hazard. It's not in a coastal high hazard area. It's not in a cultural resource zone, or there's no surface water protection zones. The project does not have any designated historical landmarks or other historical archaeological sites within its PDD boundary within 150 feet of the boundary. The project is also not within a scenic corridor or adjacent to one. The project will not be gated, but in the event that the project were to be gated in the future, it would have to be in accordance with Hillsborough County's Transportation Technical Manual, TD-9. The internal drive, again, within the development itself is privately owned and maintained and will be per the County Transportation Technical Manual. I would say in conclusion, the Planning Commission as well as Development Review Services staff have supported the project and found the request consistent with a comprehensive plan as well as the LEC. And I would respect your approval tonight. Any questions that you may have?
All right, thank you very much. I have no questions for you. All right, Development Services.
Jared Fallon with Development Services. So this property, it's located at 7805 East Sly Avenue. It is within the East Lake Oriental Park Community Planned Area and within the urban service area. As the applicant has stated, the primary uses in this area are residential as well. There is primarily RSC 6 zoning, and there is a PD zoning to the east, which is currently undeveloped, but it is slated to allow single-family duplexes and townhomes. And to the north, across Sly Avenue, is a large ASC 1 property, currently undeveloped. As far as the development standards, he went over those there. The property, the lots that they're proposing are going to be smaller in nature. 19 feet is going to be the smaller width, and up to about 1,700 square feet size. He did also mention the 2-to-1 setback. They have asked to waive that. We find that to be adequate and fine. We are okay with waiving that. They are providing a buffer where that waiver or where that 2-to-1 setback is being infringed upon, but with the buffer, we find that acceptable. And in conclusion, yes, we find this appropriate for the area. It's residential in nature as their surrounding area is. We don't find that there will be much negative impacts to the proposed or to the existing. All agencies have no issues, and we recommend approval subject to the conditions.
Okay, good, thank you. No questions for you.
Thank you.
All right, Planning Commission.
The subject site is located in the Community Mixed Use 12 Future Land Use category. It is in the urban service area and within the limits of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. The proposed plan development to allow townhomes meets the intent of Future Land Use Element Objective 1 and Objective 16, as the surrounding land use pattern is mostly comprised of mixed uses with single-family uses in the immediate area. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff find the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the proposed conditions of the Development Services Department.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? I do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, I do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right. And applicant, anything further? That's nothing, okay. This will close the hearing on rezoning PD 24-0789.
Our next application is item D5 240932. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from AS1 to plain development. Tim Lampkin with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening. For the record, Isabel Albert with HAF 1000 North Ashley Drive. I'm here representing the applicant, and I have a PowerPoint presentation. Thank you. All right, so the site in question is a 2.34 acre site located in Riverview, more specifically located at 8524 Riverview Drive, and it is located in the urban service area. The surrounding area is mostly comprised of residential development, but you'll have along this road just immediately to the west, there is some commercial use there. Current future land use on the north side of Riverview Drive is mostly CMU 12, which is community mixed use, 12 units to the acre. And the current zoning right now is AS1 agricultural single family. So the request is to allow, because of the future land use, we do have to apply for plan development. And in this instance, we are requesting for a mini warehouse to be located in the front with some open storage in the back. Planning Commission staff and Development Services staff reviewed the application and feels that it meets policies, these different policies that are listed here, as well as meeting Goal 2 of the South Shore area-wide plan. Like I said, this the staff found it consistent with the comprehensive plan and the South Shore area systems community plan, which I have a typo right there, and Development Services looked at the request and found it approvable and no objections from any reviewing agencies. And this concludes my presentation, unless you have any questions.
No questions for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, be sure and sign in with the clerk, please.
Good evening, Tim Lampkin, Development Services. The applicant's proposing to develop the approximately 2.3 acre property located on the north side of Riverview Drive and south of Brigman Avenue. And as the applicant stated, they're proposing to allow for the development of a just under 51,000 square foot mini warehouse that's up and an open storage area located to the north of the site. Staff finds the subject property is surrounded predominantly by agricultural uses, single-family neighborhood, and general commercial, including open storage to the west of the subject site. To the immediate east is Oak Creek DRI number 146, which is developed with single-family homes. Between the single-family homes east of the subject site and the proposed development is a buffer area ranging from approximately 88 feet to 200 feet in width. Immediately north is AS1 zone property. It's developed with agricultural related uses and a single-family home. Immediately west is an access easement for the AS1 property located to the north and located to the immediate west of the access easement, which is PD 90-027, allows for a contractor's office. Well, the applicant's proposed mini warehouse will be predominantly located in the front portion of the subject site off of Riverview Road, whereas the open storage area will be restricted to the area designated on the site plan, screened from public view by the proposed mini warehouse building. Additionally, the applicant proposes a variation to allow an 8-foot fence, further screening and mitigating the open storage in the rear of the site from the adjacent properties. These will be conditioned. The site plan does not meet the requirements of LDC section 6.06.06 buffering and screening. The applicant would normally be required to have a 30-foot wide buffer with type C screening along the eastern and northern boundary, adjacent to the residential and agricultural zoning, because open storage is proposed in the rear of the subject site and is considered a Group 6 use. However, the applicant proposes a variation to allow an increase in the fence height along the side and rear perimeters to allow an 8-foot fence, which will more effectively screen the outdoor storage from adjacent properties. The applicant, I don't believe they went into it, so they're requesting a number of variations. They all have to do with the buffering and the screening. I'm just going to go over them really quickly. They're in detail in the report, but if you have any questions, let me know. So the LDC variations, the first 3 variations are for the open storage use, and it's to allow a reduced landscape buffer. The second one to section 6.06.06 is the variation to not install a 6-foot masonry wall. And the next one is section 6.06.06 variation to allow for the 8-foot fence along the east side and the north property. Regarding the mini warehouse use, there are 3 proposed variations. Section 6.06.06, a variation to allow a reduced landscape buffer. When the applicant proposes to reduce the required width from 20 to 0 due to the extensive buffers on the adjacent property in the DRI to the east and to the north. Section 6. They're all 6.06.06, and it's variation to not install the 6-foot fence. And then lastly, for the mini warehouse, a variation to allow an 8-foot fence along the east side of the property and the north side if there's a mini warehouse there. Justification was submitted in the application submittal for the variations. The site will comply with and conform with all the regulations of the Hillsborough County unincorporated, with the Land Development Code. The Planning Commission found it consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. And based upon the above considerations, staff finds it approvable.
All right, thank you. No questions for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Planning Commission.
Yes. Alexis Myers, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located in the Community Mixed Use 12 Future Land Use category. The site is in the urban service area within the limits of the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Community Plan. The proposed mini warehouse and open storage use is compatible with the surrounding area and meets the intent of Objective 1 and Objective 16 of the Future Land Use element. Per the request, the proposal is to allow up to 50,695 square feet of mini warehouse and open storage uses, which is the maximum intensity of Community Mixed Use 12 at the floor area ratio at 0.50. Therefore, it meets the intent of Objective 7, Objective 8, and each of their respective policies. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the proposed conditions of the Development Services Department.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, I do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, do not hear anyone. County Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Applicant, anything further? No, okay. Thank you. That will close the hearing on rezoning PD 24-0932.
Our last application is item D6, Major Mod 24-1044. The applicant is requesting a major modification to a planned development zoning. Tanya Chappella will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation, and you should have also received a revised staff report, which has some condition changes on condition UII in the third paragraph, which removed the truck courtyard setback and provided an increased height for the wall from 6 feet to 8 feet.
All right, thank you. I do have the revised staff report.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson. And I want us to start by saying thank you to every single one of you who had to come here on the date of the originally scheduled hearing. And whether it was you, yourselves, or people from your offices, I really do appreciate it. It's really an above and beyond measure that the county took to not disrupt these cases and to ensure they stay in the land use meeting that we were originally scheduled for. And I do want to thank you. I think that's important because it was a large effort, and a lot of people were still without power and not back into their homes yet. So we do appreciate that. Representing Johnson Development Associates here today, and we're trying to activate an old PD, and you're going to see in our planning presentation, this is a really kind of a Frankenstein PD that predates the 1989 comp plan, and then the comp plan has changed again. And there have been numerous modifications that have been necessary because the original approved PD really didn't capture what we need today in modern zoning, the details that we needed to capture. And we worked really hard on this site to make sure that we were compatible and consistent. And with that, I'll ask Jessica to come up and make our presentation.
Good evening. Jessica Kowal with Landis Evans and Partners. Address is 3810 Northdale Boulevard in Tampa, 33624. As Cammie mentioned, we have a project in a larger PD area. You can see this is the general location. This was the old comp plan amendment and the location of our modification within that old comp plan. And here is the site within the current comp plan designation of OC20. This was the overall PD area. It included about 145 acres of property, and it was intended to address some zoning conformance issues on the subject properties that were all incorporated in this overall PD area. Our subject modification is only approximately 8 acres. It's 8.07 acres. And as you can see, there were other modifications throughout this overall PD over the history of the PD that have been modified. The existing permitted uses include some light industrial uses. However, some of the language is quite broad and doesn't meet current industry standards to really be able to market the site for its use. We have a picture of our proposed development plan here. As you can see, there is right-in, right-out access on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and a right-in only on Orient Road. Again, we are requesting to clarify the permitted uses. They are non-intensive uses. They are not heavy industrial uses. We are still prohibiting open storage, and we are proposing a FAR of a floor area ratio of 0.327. This is an exhibit of our setbacks. We do, as your staff report mentions, have 66 feet setbacks from all rights of way, and we have done some extra work to extend the setbacks along the residential property that we abut to the north. Here's an exhibit of our proposed buffers, again, still adhering to the 30-foot buffer to the north. We do have site variation requests. One includes the reduction of the buffer against the laundromat or commercial property on the northwest corner of our subject site. There is a requirement for a 15-foot buffer, and we are proposing an 8-foot buffer. We do believe that this is compatible and meets the intent of the code. It still separates unlike uses, but these uses have similar characteristics. This is also necessary to accommodate our right-in turn lane that we are providing off of Orient Road to accommodate truck traffic into the site. The second site variation we are requesting is to provide an 8-foot rather than a 6-foot wall within the Type C buffer along the north. We believe this will also help protect the residential properties from any perceived impacts that might be occurring on our site. Again, we believe this petition is consistent and compatible. with the existing PD, with the existing comp plan, and we have done some work to enhance the screening to the north and increase the building setbacks adjacent to those residential structures. We also identify that this is consistent with the East Lake Orient Community Plan. And with that, we are here for any questions you might have.
All right. Thank you. I have no questions for you.
Tanya Chapela, Development Services. The purpose of this request is to modify the existing plan development for the development of warehouse, distribution, and the expansion of minor industry uses. The proposed uses are limited to the rezoning modification area, comprised by parcels folio 40843.0000 and 40843.0100. Staff finds the proposed uses are similar to the existing commercial development across Orient Road to the west and Martin Luther King to the south. The applicant proposed building height provisions to accommodate a 44 feet high building. Per the section 60606, a 15 feet wide buffer type B screening is required to the commercial property, folio number 40845.0000, located to the northwest of the site. Per the Land Development Code, section 60601, and note number 8, an additional 48 feet wide buffer is required, resulting in a total 63 feet wide buffer requirement. The applicant is proposing a 40-foot building setback and an 8-foot wide buffer type B screening along the property lines, including the commercial parcel described before. The applicant also submitted a variation to the type C screening requirement of a 6-foot height wall. The applicant proposes an increase of 2 feet to the maximum wall height to allow an 8-foot high wall along the north side of the PD. Michelle Henrich already described the changes on the report, so I'm not going to repeat that part. So staff finds the proposed building height approvable. The existing commercial property to the northwest that would most potentially be impacted by the increased building height is separated by a row of mature trees, maintaining the character of the existing development. Staff finds the request variation to screening provision is also approvable. The proposed wall height exceeds that provided by the screening requirement to a single-family residential property. Even more, the alternative height will provide additional protection for adjacent residential properties from undesirable impacts. Based on these considerations, staff recommends approval subject to conditions. And this concludes my presentation, unless you have questions for me.
All right. Thank you. I have no questions for you. Thank you. All right. Planning Commission?
Yes, Alexis Myers, Planning Commission. The subject site is in the Office Commercial 20 Future Land Use category. The site is in the urban service area and within the limits of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. The area along East Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard is an existing appropriate area for light industrial and commercial uses, and therefore meets the intent of Future Land Use Element Objective 1, Objective 16, and both of their respective policies. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed major modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the proposed conditions of the Development Services Department.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in support of this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Is there anyone here or online who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, do not hear anyone. Development Services, anything further?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Applicant, anything further? Okay, that's a no. All right, that will close the hearing on major modification 24-102. 1044. And that concludes the zoning hearing master meeting for today.